Sacco and Felice, New York and New Jersey's premier attorneys at law. Their team brings decades of experience across a wide range of practice areas. Whatever life brings, they're your legal team. From everyday matters to complex cases, they've got you covered. With the experience you need and the results you want. Because when life gets complicated, they make it simple. SaccoFelice.com. SACCOFILLAS.com. 2 C's, 2 L's.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we copy.
All right.
NASA test director.
We're still working here, trying to get through everything. So we're getting close, and then trying to talk that other issue that we just picked up a little bit ago. But
what?
I think work-wise, we're doing really well.
What the hell is this stuff? Are they
Sounds good, NTD. We're doing great on board.
Are they in space, waiting for the blast off? What's going
Glad
on?
to hear it.
NASA test director giving an update to the crew.
Okay, what about the blast off? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. You know the name of the spaceship? Integrity. I don't remember voting on that. You have it now? Oh, come on. Come on. It's the most exciting thing in the world. Although it's not in this world anymore. You know where it is? It's not even on its way to the moon yet. It's orbiting Earth. They're kicking back today. They're chilling. They're chillaxing. Let's see here. The latest update from NASA on the mission blog indicates the crew members were due to be awakened at 7 this morning. They only gave them 2 hours of sleep. The astronauts will prepare Orion for a maneuver to raise the vehicle's perigee, an astronomical term referring to the point at which an object is nearest to Earth in its continuous orbit. The maneuver will set the Orion spacecraft up for operations to send it on a 4-day trip toward the moon, known as a translunar injection burn. With that objective complete, the astronauts are expected to resume sleeping at around 9:40. All right, so they're just getting up and go right back in the morning? Their schedule is all screwed up. Well, good for them. You know what's kind of cool here? There's a tracker that I'm trying to use. It's not as good as it should be. Quite frankly, the launch wasn't as good as it should be. Did you see it all herky-jerky and they didn't know what button to press? Go ahead and press that button if you don't mind.
8, 7, RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
And time.
On time, passing 30 seconds into the flights. Integrity passes the alternate MECO. Target milestone. Mission Control Houston seeing good performance with fluid engines. Space Launch System core stage. Integrity, 3 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour.
Do you remember where you were when you saw this thing? I was in my office just watching it. Yeah, I've seen rockets launch before. It was cool. I'm glad we're doing it. Hey, I got an update. The toilet broke. The toilet on the spacecraft broke, but now it's working again. Let's see here. They had the crew will now take a 4-hour nap. Blah, 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 blah. Working closely with Mission Control in Houston, they were able to restore Orion spacecraft's toil to normal operations. Okay. Man, I want more information. This is the blog? Where the hell else is it? I want more. I want more info, baby. You know? You gotta let me know what the hell's going on. When are we getting to the moon? You know who does this better, quite frankly? You know, I remember looking live inside SpaceX. They've got Elon Musk is better at this stuff. I couldn't believe yesterday when they lost the camera feed at the moment of truth. At the moment of truth, right when that rocket left the pad, the camera went out. In 1969, they were able to get it straight. And not this. I guess I've fallen into the nasty habit of bitching about everything. And it's easy to do. But quite frankly, some of it we have to do. It's our duty. The standards across the board are falling. You know, at work, it's more important to get along with somebody than to straighten them out and make sure that they do a good job. I don't want to get in trouble. You know who talks about stuff like this? My friend Brandon Strzok. And we got to go back to that speech. It's one of the most important speeches I've ever heard in my life. Are you ready, everybody? Brandon laying down some very hard truth. Keep going.
Two men. I'm either Team Mark, which according to one group would make me a warmongering neocon and a shill for Israel, or I'm Team Tucker, which according to another group would make me a rabid, Jew-hating anti-Semite, cried all the people with their torches and pitchforks. None of these assertions are true. And the truth still needs to matter more than slandering people's characters to win political arguments. When I was going through my hell, only two members, elected members of Congress, took my phone calls. Two. That was Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie was one of the only elected members of Congress to visit J6ers in prison. She was the only member of Congress to sponsor the Matthew Lawrence Perna bill, named after one of the J6ers who committed suicide due to the brutality he endured at the hands of the United States government. And a few years ago, she came to the walkaway booth at CPAC and held my hands and prayed with me while the media took pictures of us and mocked us. And now a directive has gone out that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a traitor. And if you want to be a part of the in crowd, it is mandatory that you must hate her too. If I were to ask, probably at least half the people in this room would say that they didn't like her anymore. And if I were to ask why, I bet the majority wouldn't even know themselves. When did we become the left? When did we become hive-minded, mean, and tribal? When did we decide that not only must we cancel those we disagree with, but we must control the people around us with intimidation, demanding that they think the way we think and join the cancel mob too, or be branded themselves? And when did we allow some of the most toxic, nasty, and vicious people on the planet to become the spokespeople for MAGA and the arbiters of purity tests, deciding who is and isn't worthy enough to continue to call themselves MAGA? But perhaps, most importantly, when did we decide that it was off limits to question our own government or the government of any other country? Let me tell you something. If you call yourself a patriot, but you believe that it is your obligation to only praise and only worship your president, then you must not be a patriot of this country. Because leader worship is how citizens behave in nations that aren't free. You can love your president, and you should. But it is your duty and your obligation as a free citizen of the United States of America to challenge and question your government every day, regardless of who the president of the United States is. To demand action, answers, and transparency. In fact, the most unpatriotic thing you can ever do is go with the flow and give your unquestioning loyalty to the government and demand that others around you do the same. So no, I will not be choosing between Mark Levin and Tucker Carlson. I love them both. And both of them have political ideas that I strongly disagree with. And both of them have controversial beliefs that I support. And regardless of both of those things, they are both good and decent men.
Hey, hold on a second. You can tell the crowd is like not that into it. This is uncomfortable for some people, but it's not for me, to be honest. Now, I wonder, by the way, how Mark Levin and Tucker Carlson would view these comments. I really do. I really do. I wonder if they would be in agreement or not. But I think I'm with Brandon on that. I know I keep being told that, but no. And I can't keep up with if you heard everything I ever said in my entire life, I don't know. I mean, I think we got to cut each other some slack. I don't know. But then again, oh well, keep going. All right. He's almost done.
From a movement that tried to demand my submission, conformity, and silence. Nobody on the right is ever going to tell me what I have to think or believe or who I'm allowed to be friends with. I would rather walk away.
Ooh, beautiful.
I'd rather lose everything I have, again, than go along to get along with a mob that no longer cares about the truth, because that's what strong men do. Weak men choose anger and hate and destruction. And may I remind you, God is truth and love. Identity politics begin when a movement deems any group of people untouchable. The left has done this with blacks, gays, trans, place these groups on a pedestal where they are not allowed to be criticized. Then guess what happens? Radicals, operatives, saboteurs latch on and infiltrate, and nobody's allowed to talk about it for fear of being labeled a bigot. We cannot have untouchable things. We cannot have groups or individuals or foreign governments that we are not allowed to ask questions about. That is a pathway to our destruction. Limitless debate, open discussion, and anti-censorship must always be the cornerstones of the conservative movement, with absolutely no exceptions. When I left the left, people on both sides of the aisle would ask me, why didn't you just stay on the left and fight to fix it? And I would tell them, because it can't be fixed. The left is too far gone. I've questioned a lot recently if I can continue to be a Republican. I know many of you out there agree. Everything seems at times very fake and gay. And
he happens to be gay by himself.
I strive to be authentic and gay. I think we should all strive to be authentic and gay every day.
He's kidding.
We need to see justice for the victims of January 6th who were financially destroyed and seem to have been completely forgotten. Completely forgotten. We need accountability for Fauci and the horrors inflicted during COVID. We need to see accountability for Fani Willis and Letitia James and all the rotten apples who still exist. All the rotten apples who still exist in the FBI and DOJ. We need the SAVE Act passed right now so we can begin to trust in our elections. We need affordable housing and lower interest rates so that people under 30 can believe that home ownership and the American dream are still possibilities for them. We need promises kept on mass deportations and the prioritization of American jobs going to American workers. And we need to fight against censorship online and offline every single day, because that fight never ends. I don't want to walk away from the right. I want to stay and fight to fix it. Because if we can continue to talk to each other openly and honestly without engaging in personal attacks or assuming bad intentions, our differences are not so great that they can't be overcome. My organization, #Walkaway Campaign, will continue to dive into the conservative divide this year with an ongoing series of panel debates for social media. This week we filmed the first one, Conservative Boomers versus Conservative Millennials, with the hope of bridging the divide and bringing us closer together to the golden age of our movement. Please follow our work and our mission by going to walkawaycampaign.com and signing up for our email and text list so that you can stay notified as these videos come out. And please support our work. That's walkawaycampaign.com.
All right, walkawaycampaign.com. I'm all over it there, Brandon Straka. But more importantly, those issues, very, very interesting. And it has really kind of broken my heart a little bit. Mark Levin, Megyn, Tucker. I like these people, but there's so much hostility and a lot of competition for business, for money. Sometimes when things don't make sense, money is involved. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Congratulations to the interim Attorney General of the United States, Todd Blanche, a buddy of mine. Be right back.
Greg Kelly on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And And we are back, and I am looking at everyone wants to tell me how, oh, that was the best thing they ever saw in their life, and it really motivated them, the helicopter flying outside of Kid Rock's house. Nope, it was bad news. Bad news. And Kid Rock made it worse because he couldn't be cool. You know, maybe take a picture and put it up on his wall. No, he had to tell his 80 million followers, look what just happened. Got the pilots in trouble, and then, what's his name, who's thinking about the primary in Iowa in 2028. Hegseth is delusional. I mean, we're talking Gavin Newsom type delusion that he can be president of the United States. Speaking of Gavin Newsom, I have a brutal and honest takedown of his silly book that I'm about to publish on Substack. Check out my Substack, Greg Kelly USA, free for the time being. Yes, Carlos, hello. Is he there?
Yeah, I just want to know who was the idiot.
Hey, Carlos. Hey, Carlos. This is not Carlos. What the hell's that other name you use? Marco. Who was that idiot? Carlos, why, you know, come on. Who was that idiot? Who was the idiot who what?
That hired these geniuses.
What geniuses?
Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem.
Let me ask you something, pal. How many people do you think left the Obama administration? How many people do you think left the Bill Clinton administration? How many people left the Joe Biden administration? There is turnover. There's been minimal turnover in this Donald Trump administration. Minimal. And guess what? People hire people all the time and then fire them all the time. It happens. Hey, what do you do for a living anyway? What do you do?
I work for a company for 25 years, utility company. 25 years, pal. I'm 57 years old.
That's terrific. Then if you've been there for 25 years, you have seen a lot of people come and go, right? Of course you have. You hire somebody and you don't know what you're going to get. You know, they make a great impression in the interview. They say and do all the right things. Their resume is this. But you really don't know what they're like until you're around them 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you know? Then you see what competence is all about. So what's happening here, you know, you're acting like this is the first time it's ever happened, Marco. All right? Hey, you want to go back, look at Bill Clinton, how many attorney generals he went through, or attorneys general, however you say it. That was a disaster, a walking disaster, and the rest of it. So these things happen. It doesn't mean anything. Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W., Obama, Trump 1, Biden, Trump 2. But there's very, very, very little of it this time around. And you know what? It's actually healthy. All right? It keeps people on their toes. Carlos, you're still banned. Remember that. Carlos, Marco, you think you can fool me? Get the caller ID number. The caller ID number.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked?
Yes, that's what they just asked you.
Mr. Jordan.
What an embarrassment. Pam Bondi, goodness gracious. Talk about desperate. Talk about inappropriate. And I'm not a Democrat. I don't live for the party, all right? I live for the truth and love. I like I like MAGA, but, it's not all about the party. It's all about truth and love, in my opinion. And our next guest, Joel Gilbert, the great journalist, author, and filmmaker, he's had Pam Bondi's number for a long time, all the way back to the Trayvon Martin days. Remember that one? Joel Gilbert, welcome back. What do you think of Pam Bondi being fired?
Well, I think it's kind of about time. I don't think she was a great choice for Trump.
he brought the MAGA people with him, and she really was not MAGA. I don't know if he knew her history, but as you alluded to, Pam Bondi was the Attorney General of the state of Florida when the Zimmerman case happened. Trayvon Martin was shot and killed. And when Ben Crump and Al Sharpton started leading the street protests, Pam Bondi, instead of looking at the evidence and saying, I'm sorry, this is self-defense, see you later, guys, she appointed a special counsel to have Zimmerman arrested. Ben Crump held this ridiculous press conference where he said that he found Trayvon's girlfriend. She was a 16-year-old. And then this 19-year-old, Rachel Jeantel, shows up for a deposition, and Zimmerman's attorneys wanted to depose Crump and say, what the hell, who's this person? And Pam Bondi wrote a 40-page memo denying them the ability to depose Ben Crump. She also said the Martin family were friends of hers. So it was because of the Zimmerman case, don't forget, that the Black Lives Matter movement was founded. So I trace Pam Bondi as being responsible for the Black Lives Matter movement because she had no backbone. I don't think it was a good choice for Trump. I just read in the Daily Mail that she was fired because she tipped off Eric Swalwell that the FBI was going to release the Fang Fang files. So hopefully Trump will appoint a serious MAGA attorney general, and we can get on to the business of his campaign promises, which was to prosecute the deep state bad actors that have been abusing the law for so long.
Yeah, I heard that thing about Swalwell. I don't quite get it. How are they friends? How could she ever have been friends? I mean, like, where do they even have the time to hang out? I don't get that they were friendly. And what was the favor again?
Well, the FBI was going to release the Fang Fang files showing how Swalwell was investigated for his relationship with a Chinese spy. So apparently, according to the Daily Mail, Pam Bondi tipped him off, and he was able to get his lawyers to write a cease and desist. So we still haven't seen the Fang Fang files. So that might have been the last straw for Trump, but you could just see the whole year he's been irritated that none of these prosecutions have taken place of all these deep state actors, Comey, Letitia James, some of the Russia hoax. Nothing has happened. So I think it's high time, and hopefully we get a good, serious MAGA replacement.
All right. Very, very good. She just didn't get it. One other thing, this 40-page brief. What the hell did she say in the how is it she was friends with Trayvon Martin's family? How did that happen?
Well, she caved into the street mob. Ben Crump and Al Sharpton held these protests and said, we just want an arrest. We just want him to get arrested. So Pam Bondi could have looked at the investigation of the Stanford police that interviewed people for 3 weeks, and they said this is a pure case of self-defense. Pam could have done that. Instead, she caved into the mob. She said, okay, I'll give you a special prosecutor. She appoints a special prosecutor. They arrest Zimmerman. And when they wanted to depose Ben Crump for misrepresenting the witness, Pam Bondi opposed it, and she prevented Zimmerman's attorneys from deposing Crump.
I know, but you said said somewhere they're friends. She's actually friends with the Trayvon Martin family.
Yeah, what she did is Pam Bondi released a statement calling the Martin family friends of hers. Very famously, she said the Martin family are friends of hers. So she was a disaster as the Attorney General of Florida. It was because of her that we had the Black Lives Matter movement and all the mayhem that happened since then. And I think Trump made a mistake in appointing her in the first place, and it's about time he put in a real MAGA Attorney General.
All right. One other thing I wanted to get you on here. As we proceed forward, you try to get, what's his name, Swalwell tossed off the ballot. He doesn't live in California. He's running for governor of California. The state constitution says you got to live in California to be the governor of California. You found out the goods, but they're sticking by Swalwell. Who the hell's going to win that race?
Well, I took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and they just, let him fly, even though he was not a resident. It looks like there's a chance it's going to come down to the June 2nd primary. There is a chance the two Republicans only get through. I think because there's so many Democrats, they could split the vote. So it's a real intriguing race that we're going to have to see what happens.
All right. Well, Joe Gilbert, you're on it. You're great. Last thing, the new Attorney General must get Letitia James. And it looks to me like Pam Bondi didn't want to get Letitia James. Tell us what Letitia James did that was illegal with those crazy houses down in Virginia.
Well, she had 43 years of mortgage fraud that started when she was 21 years old, when she told the bank that she married her father in order to get a cheap loan. She told the mortgage companies in Virginia that it would be her principal residence, again, to qualify for the lowest interest rate. And she also lied to the insurance company. So she's got a massive record of mortgage fraud, which is ironic because she charged Trump with it illegitimately. And the attorney generals all over the country, in Virginia, New York, DOJ could have done something because she also took out a Treasury loan during the government-backed loan scandal. She took out a government loan out of the Treasury Department. So they could have gotten her. Look, the whole Russia hoax thing, they haven't lifted a finger. So Trump pretty much failed so far in his second term to take control of the Department of Justice. The same problem he had in his first term. He never took control of the Department of Justice, and that was a big problem in the first term, and he's got to get it rectified now here for the second term.
All right. We appreciate it. You are great. Joel Gilbert, keep it up. All right, pal?
Okay. Thanks, Greg.
You bet. You bet. Oh, boy, should I read you my brand new Substack piece on Gavin Newsom and his ridiculous, totally disqualifying personal memoir that will basically totally upend history. I mean, let's take the common sense or conventional wisdom right now. Gavin Newsom is the leading candidate for the Democrat nomination for President of the United States. Now, with this in mind, right, if this is the case, well, this book is important. Because sooner or later, people are going to start doing some opposition research on him. There's already a lot of opposition research on him. They're going to start leaking stuff on him, and they're going to start saying stuff on him. Right now, he's got the protection of the Democrat Party, the media, all that stuff. But it's going to be a lot of people in this race for president. And if he's the front runner, he's the target. And I got to tell you, this piece that I wrote is dynamite. All right? Dynamite. Now, here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Here we go. The name of my piece. Gavin Newsom just confessed to something a president can never afford and never admit. He is disqualified. Gavin Newsom made a serious mistake in writing this book because in trying to define himself on his own terms, in his own words, he ends up revealing something far more damaging than anything his critics could say. This is not interpretation. It isn't bias. It's all right there on the page. The book, Young Man in a Hurry, a memoir of discovery, is supposed to explain who he is. Instead, it exposes him. And here is the disqualifying part. A few years ago, Gavin Newsom had an affair with a subordinate who was married to one of his top aides. It became public. It was a scandal. He apologized, weathered for it, and moved on. This is not the disqualifying part, by the way. Okay? Because most people remember that. That's not what matters here. What matters is how he explains it now. By his own account, Gavin Newsom receives praise he does not believe that he deserves. And his way of coping with that is to blow up his own life, to, quote, subvert himself, to engage in what he calls self-sabotage. That is the issue. The affair is just the example. Here is his explanation in his own words. Single mayor who could not fathom all the flattery he was receiving and decided to subvert himself with an act of self-sabotage. That is the revelation, not the behavior, but the rationale. He is telling us that praise destabilizes him, that admiration throws him off balance, that when he is elevated, he feels compelled to tear himself down. And that matters because the presidency is not merely a position of power. It is an environment saturated with attention, deference, and reinforcement. The office does not just test judgment, it tests identity. It surrounds a person with approval, access, constant affirmation, enough to distort even disciplined people. The trappings of the presidency have a way of weakening even strong men. The office amplifies whatever is already there. If a man's own explanation for his worst conduct is that he could not handle being admired, then he is telling the public something very specific. He is not simply flawed. He is psychologically unsteady under the very condition the presidency creates. And then he reinforces it. On his book tour, including in an interview with Mark Halperin, Newsom said he struggles with what he calls imposter syndrome. That is not humility. That is not modesty. It is a statement about how he sees himself. A president does not need swagger, but a president does need a settled sense of self, an internal steadiness that does not swing with praise, criticism, or attention. A man who believes he is not truly worthy of his position and who reacts to admiration by undermining himself is not displaying humility. He is describing instability, and that is the disqualifying part. Those two admissions, the self-sabotage under flattery and uncertainty about his own legitimacy, that is enough right there to remove him from any and all consideration for the presidency of the United States. Now, what the rest of the book reveals, once you set that aside, and let's set that aside, what remains is still striking, just in a different way. What the book offers is a portrait of a man who is pompous, self-dramatizing, and oddly determined to turn an ordinary assisted life into something grand. There was a time when that alone could damage a presidential candidate, a moment of obvious emptiness, a display of shallow thinking, a sense that the person simply wasn't serious. Those things used to matter more than they do now. Yes, they matter a lot less today, but they are still worth seeing clearly, and this book makes it unusually easy. The title is Self-Flattery. Let's begin there. He calls the book Young Man in a Hurry, a memoir of discovery. The title flatters him before the first page even begins. A young man in a hurry suggests urgency, precociousness, unusual drive, a life moving forward with purpose. A memoir of discovery suggests a person wrestling with ideas, learning hard lessons, arriving at insight. But that is not the life he describes or writes about. He is not especially hurried, and what he calls discovery often amounts to exploring his own family tree, extended stories about relatives and lineage that may interest him, but offer little to the reader. If anything, the life he presents is meandering, social, and assisted. The title does not describe the life. It flatters it. Let me go here. The post-college year. No direction, lots of spin. Out of college, his first job is working for his uncle, delivering orthopedic shoe inserts. There is nothing wrong with that. What is striking is how little explanation he offers for it. In the same book, he presents himself as shaped by ideas, literature, long conversations, intellectual curiosity. Then graduation arrives, and without any real transition, he's in his uncle's business driving inserts, foot inserts, around the Bay Area. Is this a temporary job, a fallback, a career path he is seriously considering? He doesn't say. And in a memoir that is otherwise eager to explain him, that omission stands out. And then look at how he tells the story. Naturally, even here, he is exceptional. Customers call in to say he is the fastest, the most polite, the best delivery boy they have ever seen. And then the details of the job begin to wobble. He says he is paid per delivery. Then he says if he works fast enough, he could earn a full day's pay in a half day. Which is it? Paid by the piece or paid by the day? The mechanics are unclear, but the conclusion is consistent. Even the most ordinary circumstances, he emerges as unusually capable. The pattern continues as he moves into business and politics. He has pointed toward figures like real estate broker Walter Shorenstein through family connections. He is around the right circles. He looks the part. He is noticed. I got to take a break here, but it goes on like this, and I'm very proud of it. There is nobody in the world who has read that book, digested it, and turned it into this kind of review. And I'm very eager for you guys to read it. It is meant to be written more than it is to be heard, but on Substack, probably in the next few hours. Greg Kelly Substack. You can go there and register. It's a piece of cake. You don't even have to register. I think you just got to put in your email address. All right. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Be right back.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I can't wait to publish that piece. I can't wait until Gavin Newsom reads it. It's going to be fun. All right, Barbara, hello in Huntington.
Hi, Greg. Hello. Thank you so much for highlighting what Brendan Straka had to say, because I see it myself in my own life, patriots being turned against each other, and the confusion and the chaos that's resulting from some of the things that Brendan talked about and that you have talked about. And incidentally, Pope Benedict, 2 popes before the one we have now, Pope Benedict said something about that. He said, evil draws its power from indecision and concern for what other people think. And that's the evil that's being planted to take down the MAGA movement and the MAGA solidarity. And I'm so glad that Brendan said he's going to have things on his website to address this and to address these debates, because people need to know that they have to look for the truth. You can't just go to the people that you've always gone to. You have to look more deeply for the truth. There's so much at risk now, and we have to take ourselves out of our comfort zone and spend more time looking till we find the truth that we can rely on. And instead of turning against each other, debate with each other if necessary, but understand that 90% of our motivation is all to preserve our republic, not to tear it down and not to be turned against each other.
I love it. You get that one? Who's that guy on Staten Island that annoys me half the time? What is his name, the artist? The guy. LeBedo. Scott LeBedo. Everyone's a wussy except for Scott. Yeah, right. Yeah. No, he does a lot of that stuff. Hey, I appreciate it, Barbara. Very good. Very wise. Colleen, hello.
Hello, Greg. Boy, what an interesting hour. All of this, everything between the Pam Bondi and the Brendan and now this Gavin Newsom. So I went to high school in the 80s in Northern California. So you are really, I can't wait to read this. I'm going to have to join Substack because good for you. I think there's a lot of issues. There are weird type of people out there. They are nothing like we are on the East Coast. They just aren't.
Well,
There's something. There was a few handful of guys that were normal, that were great, that I could transport to the East Coast.
Oh, come on. Come on. Wait, what? Everybody on the West Coast is crazy? Is that what you're saying?
No, they're just not, they're not gutsy. I don't know how to, like you said, he's so...
Come on, we're America. I'm not holding, look, there's a lot of reasons to not like Gavin Newsom, okay? I don't blame the jurisdiction he lives in, right? I mean, there are plenty of great heroes and patriots from California, all right? We can't think like that. You know what I mean? 40% of the state's MAGA. Hey, if we are lucky, a Republican is going to be elected governor. That guy from Fox News. Anyway, Colleen, thank you very much. Yeah, Greg Kelly Substack. I appreciate it all. To be continued, and good luck to our astronauts in space.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Let me tell you about ProHealthConnect.com. It's transforming healthcare payments, providing retailers a seamless process for over-the-counter and healthy benefit programs. By connecting retailers, health plans, and payment processors, ProHealth Connect creates one powerful, unified network. They empower independent grocers and pharmacies to accept health benefit cards without changing how they do business. With over 10,000 locations nationwide, helping more than 1.3 million people access the care and nutrition they need. Go to ProHealthConnect.com.